The Corkin Entertainment Show is brought to you by Podmatch, the ultimate platform designed to connect podcast hosts with prospective guests effortlessly. Are you a podcaster looking to elevate your show to new heights? Or perhaps you're a guest hoping to share your story with a broader audience. Whatever your podcasting goals are, we have the perfect solution for you. Podmatch simplifies the entire process of discovering guests for your show or finding podcasts to feature your expertise. Now imagine a platform where you can easily match with like-minded creators tailored specifically to your niche. With Podmatch, you can effortlessly network with influencers and thought leaders, all while staying true to your podcast vision. There are a multitude of ways that Podmatch can help you grow your brand. You can be part of a thriving community of podcasters and potential guests. Engage, collaborate, and grow together. If you're ready to experience these fantastic benefits for yourself, we invite you to join Podmatch today. Head over to www.joinpodmatch.com/Corkin Entertainment and sign up right now for only $6 a month. That's right, you heard me right, $6 a month. Join the Podmatch family today and watch your podcast soar to new altitudes. Thank you for tuning into the Corkin Entertainment Show, and happy podcasting. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corkin Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Frankie Corcoran. Hope everyone's having a good week. Hope everyone's getting all prepped for the summer. Snow is slowly melting. It's a warm week, and I couldn't be more happy. Thank you guys, as always, for listening to the Corkin Entertainment Show. Whether you're listening to us in traffic here in Miramichi, of course, the Centennial Bridge closure, hope people are adjusting to that. And I know it's been a big change for a lot of people. And just hope everyone's staying safe and everything. And yeah, so and thank you if you're in traffic and you need a podcast to listen to. Thank you if you've chosen the Corkin Entertainment Show to listen to. It's always much appreciated. We got a great one for you today. We got a great guest for you today. It was an absolute delight to have her on. Laura Van Warmer. She's the creator of the podcast series Class of 74. It can be found on all streaming platforms. And she was just an absolute delight to have on here. She's done so much in the industry. She's also an author. She's published over 16 books throughout different companies, HarperCollins, Doubleday, Random House, and she was just so much fun. She was so funny too, and I just had so much fun with her. She was one of, we've had lots of great guests. But she's certainly been a standout throughout our 5-year run that we've been having on the show, which is crazy that I'm even saying that. But we talk about a lot of different things. She was truly a delight to listen to. And so be sure to go check out the Class of 74 on your podcasting app of choice. And so if you guys liked the episode, as always, leaving us a nice review, rating on Spotify, whatever the case may be, always helps the show out. And so without further ado, guys, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast today. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corkin Entertainment Show. I am your host, Frankie Corcoran, and today I'm joined by acclaimed novelist, the brains behind the Class of 74 podcast. It can be found on all podcasting platforms. Be sure to go check that out. Very excited to have her on here today, Laura Van Warmer. Laura, how are you today?
I'm very well, and I'm very excited to be here. You're a very exciting host.
Well, you gotta be. You know what I mean?
No, people know out there. They know that, no, not every host is energized. But you really, I feel like it's showbiz. Here we go. Corporate entertainment.
Well, you try to be like there's nothing worse than if you get onto someone's show and they're just hi, how are you? Tell me about your career. You know what I mean? It's like, you want to have some life to it. So, that it's not just, especially in a world with AI, you don't want someone to think that you're a bot that's just hosting a podcast. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe that host was a bot. Right. No, I don't think there's going to be much mistaking you or I for AI. I don't think. I
You don't
really
think?
don't,
Well, we'll
Frankie.
see.
Well, first of all, your name, Frankie. It's so great. Everybody's usually Frank with a tie and jacket, right?
I wear a tie and jacket for special occasions, but not today. I should have because I'm, in your presence and you're so accomplished in your career and everything that I'm like, I feel
No,
like I should
dear.
be.
I'm just old. That's all. You live long enough, it all piles up. And none of those, all that wasted time you don't see, over a period. But yes, I'm so glad you're impressed.
I'm just old. Oh, come on. You got to give yourself credit. You've done
But
so
it
much.
is, a lot of people will tell you, it just adds up over the years. So,
But, well, this is something that I heard about you, and tell me if it's true or not. Is it true that you work with Betty White?
yes. Well, I knew Betty. My first job in publishing was at Doubleday. And my boss, a woman named Loretta Barrett, signed Betty up for a book. And I was I was just around, and I of course was the biggest fan in the world. And so I knew her for 40 years
Wow.
through right. And then when Loretta left Doubleday and she became a literary agent, Betty and I both had her as an agent. And then actually, sadly, later, Loretta was diagnosed with a glioblastoma, like what Ted Kennedy and one of those inoperable brain tumors. And so what happened is that I was pinch hitting for Loretta on a new book by Betty White. And I was actually flying out to LA to see her when a drunk driver crashed into me going the wrong way in a tunnel. Can you believe it? And I woke up like a month later in a million pieces. But Betty sent me an orchid in the rehab, and all the nurses, they were so excited. That patient in bed 6 knows Betty White. So I got the best care imaginable. But she
And
was
meanwhile, there's
lovely.
there's someone else who's struggling, and it's like, what celebrity do you know? You know?
Oh, right. I know. Well, you will. Just live long enough and go to
Yes.
plays. That's the other thing. I lived in New York for so many years. And of course, all my friends, I had so many aspiring actors and directors and writers as friends. That's why they were in New York. So you go to all these showcase plays, right? Do you have that where you live? Showcases where they are looking for backing and
Well, we have a lot. I mean, where the city where I live, so in New Brunswick, there's not really much of
oh,
that
right.
in Miramichi. But if you go to cities like Fredericton, it's probably about an hour and a half away
I
from
know,
here.
Fred. I lived in Nova Scotia for a long time. I had a house in Nova Scotia for years and years. So I
Oh,
know, yes.
oh, there. So fellow Canadian on the show.
Well, daughter of a Canadian, sort of. It's a long story, but no, and I know New Brunswick very well. It's God's country. It's so gorgeous up there.
Oh
But you're
God, yes.
but you're big on like ship museums up there instead of
Yeah,
theater.
yeah,
Theater
well,
down.
well, well. I mean, we do, compared to like some of the other like bigger cities. Like I'd say, of all cities in Miramichi or in New Brunswick, I'd say Fredericton and St. John are
Yeah.
probably the two
Oh,
biggest
St. John.
for
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
Yes, St. John Theater Company. I had the privilege of seeing a show there, Miracle on 34th Street, a few years ago. Just absolutely phenomenal show, and
But
it
did you wait and go backstage? I mean, at the end, did you wait at the stage door to meet the actors?
I did. Well, I had a friend who was in that show actually. So
Great,
that was the
great,
one. As
perfect.
soon as after the show, we hung out, and I think I maybe got to shake one of the other actors' hands, but still the experience of being able to
Talk
go up
and
to them, talk to them
hang out.
exactly.
Yes,
Especially just
Frankie.
being memorized.
that's where age comes into it because 20 years from now, you might be in Halifax or in New York, and one of those actors is in a play, and you will tell them that you saw them that night. It just, there are only really like 100 really nice people in the world, and we all know each other.
Yes, we're well, especially where I am, where it's not so much because it's such a small town. I find it's very where everybody knows each other. If someone's
Yeah.
doing a show or someone's doing a concert
Yeah.
or whatever, sometimes it's not even as much as, oh my God, you hear so and so's playing at this spot. It's, Buddy, his son's girlfriend is playing at the spot. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that's
Buy a ticket. Buy a ticket.
yeah, buy a
Well,
ticket. Exactly. So that's kind of what our, in Miramichi is like, where it's such a small town where we're all just so and so's buddy's friend, you know?
right. But that's what's so great about podcasting is that you start to make relationships all around. And trust me, age is speaking. It will all add up, Frankie, over time. You'll be amazed at how many people you know through somebody else. And so when I say to you, Frankie, you would have loved Betty White and she would have loved you and she would have loved your voice, that because you project and she could hear you, because she was an actress first. Everybody said, oh, she's a comedian, but she wasn't like a stand-up comedian. And she would love you because
Oh my
you're
God, that's amazing. I love
no,
that.
but it's true that all really nice people, we all like each other. And podcasting seems to have a lot of people in it that are like that.
It truly is, and the Podmatch community is something. You and I are users of Podmatch. It's such a great way to connect guests, hosts. The fact that you and I, that we live in a day and age now where there's a platform that you and I can even do stuff like this. We have Zoom, where if you don't have many people around here that like guesting on podcasts, or maybe they don't
Right,
like doing podcasts. Hey,
right.
guess what? We have the technology now that we can make this happen with somebody. Like the way we're talking now, you have a microphone, I have a microphone. It's like we're in the same room, but we're
It's like
not.
you're sitting with me. Right. Thank God you can't see how messy my office is, but it's all blacked out
It's a
behind me
black
for a
screen. I was going
reason,
to say,
right?
I said there's nothing there.
That's right. That's just for Zoom I can do that. But it really is. And just the fact, your humility, I should tell your listeners, I was talking to you about an interview you did with Alex. I can never
Yes.
pronounce his last name.
San Filippo.
San Filippo, who is the founder of Podmatch. And you were very humble when you said, because your interview is fabulous. So everybody watched that one.
Oh, thank you.
You are talking to like the future Bill Gates, and you don't even know it. This guy invented something that is turning into a global village, and it's remarkable. And you talk to him like he's your friend from down the street. And that's what's so good. So you see, you do know one really famous guy.
I do,
Yeah.
and the fact that getting to talk to people from all different walks of life in like so many different parts of the world. One thing podcasting's taught me also is learning time zones is a big thing
Oh,
too.
yeah, it is. It is.
I've
Thank God
struggled
we're in
with
the
that
same one. Me too.
immensely, because I'm waiting on a call for some guests sometimes, and then it's like, okay, oh no, we got the time zones mixed up. They think the call is in 2 hours from now, but I'm sitting here like, where are they? They're supposed to be
Right,
here. You know what I mean?
right,
And
right.
then
You're
vice
all,
versa. I'm guesting on someone's show and I get the time zones mixed up. So thankfully, doing it for as long as I have, you've got I've gotten better with it. There might
yeah,
still be
sure.
yeah, exactly. But that's the thing with anything. It's you kind of learn as you go. You still make mistakes no matter what it is. And that's just something that it makes us more human to show that we all do make mistakes. Like, is that how important is that to know that mistakes do happen? It happens to the best of us.
It does. And the whole moral of the story is you don't have to move to New York anymore.
Nope,
And in
exactly.
my day, people who graduated from high school in 1974, they would look at me and say, communication, a media company, not in New York. What are you talking about? Well, I have an episode in the class of 74 where the ham radio club has accidentally picked up a signal from a reporter, and he's in a spot where the phones have been turned off, right? And he's trying to call his newspaper in New York because Attica prison uprising just happened. This is in September of 1971. And my character, Cynthia, they ask her to help because they've got this guy on the ham radio from upstate New York, and he wants somebody to call his paper in New York and call in the story that people are getting shot in the prison at that time. And people write to me, they respond, they go, ham radio? What is ham radio? And I want to say, look, 1974, there were no cell phones. There was no social media. There weren't even tapes yet. We're still on 45 records and albums. An answering machine hasn't been invented yet. So if you called somebody and nobody's home, they could be at the store or they could be dead on the floor in Paris. You never knew. No one knew where anybody was because there was no video streaming either. So there were no security cameras.
Yeah, literally.
So our parent, it blows the mind of young people like yourself that this is the culture that we grew up in. And a lot of young people tune in because they're like, so that's why grandpa's the way he is. You know, why grandpa's like a financial conservative and a social liberal. How could that be? And our particular class, or the the series opens in 1971 of September, when we have 5 kids who are starting high school in a small town that's a suburb of Connecticut. And it's a commuter town. And all of their parents were in World War II. And all of their parents got higher education because of the GI Bill. And all of their parents got mortgages, their GI mortgage. And all of the Fortune 500 companies in New York City hired these guys because they were disciplined. They had been in the service. They'd been in the Army and the Navy. They followed orders and they were well educated. They got good manners. And they started hiring these guys from all over the United States. And they all moved to this one small town. Well, this is real. This is the town I grew up in. And that is what this series is based on, is where did this suburb come from? Because they're very different now. And the time period, Frankie, was so exciting because they're going into high school. This is the first class. Our character, Cynthia, has been told all of her life she's going to go to college and she can be whatever she wants to be. That never happened before. Women didn't go to college. They sent the guys to college, right? The women are picketing the streets for the ERA bill, the Equal Rights Amendment. We've got the civil rights movement going on all across the United States. And we've got all kinds of things going on. So it's a time of incredible change, a break from the 60s. We're still in Vietnam when the series starts, and Nixon is president. And everybody laughs because they say, what is that episode? Nixon's inventing the Environmental Protection Agency? Are you kidding me? A Republican? And we're like, yeah. And then they're talking about public television it's a new network now, publicly funded television. Well, that was President Nixon. And everyone goes, what? And we say Republicans were different back then. Very different. And so what's happened, Frankie, is that a lot of the people who tune into the class of 74 are so fascinated by the historical aspect of it. Just like, God, we forgot about this period, when, the right to choose was national law. That was there. That was done. Children are being brought up that women and blacks and Native Americans and anybody, they're all created equal. They have the same rights in America. So it's fun to go back because also everybody drank and drove. Not that that's funny, but they did. And we all did. Everybody smoked. Everybody drank. That a lot goes on. So it's for a novelist, and I am a longtime novelist, it's a very rich playing ground to go back to and write a story in. And that's what it is the class of 74 is a story. It's a story I wanted to find and I couldn't. So I wrote it.
This episode of the Corcoran Entertainment Show is brought to you by Holy Hydrogen. Okay, guys, let's be real. We all try our best to stay hydrated, right? But not all water is created equal. That's where Holy Hydrogen comes in. They've got this awesome device called the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium Edition, and it takes clean water to the next level by infusing it with molecular energy. That means you're not just drinking water. You're giving your body extra support with every sip. Better energy, less inflammation, and a real boost to your immune system. So try the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium Edition today by going to shop.holyhydrogen.com/Corcoran and use the promo code Corcoran for $100 off your purchase. Again, that's shop.holyhydrogen.com/Corcoran and use the promo code Corcoran at checkout. Stay hydrated and stay healthy.
And you excelled at it for sure. I've checked out some of it, and the thing that the thing that I'd like is that I'm slowly lately I've been slowly started listening to a little bit more of audiobooks. And the thing, because before I said it's hard to get into for me sometimes. I'm like, sometimes I'm more of a visual guy. You know what I mean? Where like, I mean, yes, even if I hear things, it's much easier if I look at it and I can kind of interpret it that way. But so lately I'm trying to get into audiobooks more. But the thing about yours that's really, how many times in our lives have we, let's say we're watching some sort of series and you wanna watch it, but you also want to do housework at the same time, so you just put it up on the TV.
It's a classic. It's a soap opera.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
how you kind of put yourself in that type of situation. Like, okay, I remember watching this show. While I was doing laundry one day or while I was cooking supper, and listening to audiobooks and listening to these fictionalized type podcasts, it kind of really cements that, it's like, okay, this is how we watch stuff now. It's almost like TV for your ears, or like movies for your ears. Yeah.
Now, audiobooks have been around for a long time, and this is a cross between an audiobook and a bookstore reading and old time radio, all three of which I loved. But the thing was that accident that I mentioned, I lost my voice, and for 10 years, I couldn't write another novel, the damage I had. But it turns out I can write an ongoing story. It's almost like writing a chapter a week and reading it. And it's just different. I don't know how else to tell you. I did want to explain, just sort of for your audience too, that back in the Victorian days, soap operas, when Charles Dickens wrote a book, right? A magazine bought 3 chapters. They paid him to write 3 chapters. So they would publish it. And if the readers liked it, they would pay him for the next 3 chapters. right? And
Right.
this would go on for 2 years before a book like Oliver Twist was finished. Every time he published an installment, Dickens went along about his life in London, and everybody gave him feedback on the chapters. They'd say, give that poor kid more to eat in the orphanage, right? So he'd go, okay. And then the next 3 chapters, Oliver's doing better in his life. And that was only because he had audience feedback. So they would go on, and these massive Victorian novels like Oliver Twist, people thought they were published or written as one big novel. They weren't. It was written in like 30 pieces over a period of a year and a half. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going back to that idea of you do a chapter and leave a cliffhanger ending so people come back the next week and listen. And in the meantime, I get feedback on how people like the story, which is kind of cool. I've never had that in my life.
No, exactly. Well, would you ever like because one thing that that is something that I'm sure lots of creators struggle with is that they want to draw a line between satisfying the audience and what the audience wants in terms of we want this,
Right, right.
we
And
want
art,
these two characters to get married. It's like,
right.
okay, you
And
want
art.
that, but the story's not going that direction. Like, where do you kind of draw the line of wanting to please them, but then also staying true to your vision? Like, where do you find
Yeah,
that balance?
right. That's where it's different from a novel or an audio novel. When I write a novel, I'm alone for 16 months in a room, okay? All by myself. Nobody else has anything to do. So you have your vision and it's up to you to fulfill it. This, what I've invented, this sort of serial fiction, is a different creature. This is meant for audience feedback. I've got no vested interest in this. We're portraying a period in American life, and people are giving me feedback, and I hear stories and I think, that's right. I forgot about that. So then I think, I've got to include that. Somebody the other night, I have a Patreon group where we have a Zoom call once a week, and these people sit around and talk about high school all the time. And somebody shared a story about the police, about being drunk in high school, and what a very kind police officer did for him. And I thought, wow. So that's going in, right? I've got people who have shared stories with me about bullies, because I hated, everybody had bullies in high school that they just were terrified of. So in the class of 74, we give them their comeuppance. We don't get all depressed. We don't let people kick you around for long. We let our characters get back at them. You know what you couldn't do back then? Well, you do now, because this is Laura Van Warmer world, where we're going to have fun and feel better about ourselves, not worse, and have fun going back and looking at the way it was and the way it is now, and to talk about it. Talk about it. What are those changes?
Yeah, exactly. Because like that, it always, like it's audience feedback. Yeah, is incredibly important. But then also, it is a struggle where you want like it be like there's a fan favorite character. And you're like, okay, in my mind, I want to kill them off. Like this is how it's going. I have it planned in my head. This is how it's going to go. They're going to die, and it's going to propel this story forward. And then you see how the audience reacts to them, and it's almost like how The Walking Dead had this too, where there's of course the character Daryl.
Right,
If Daryl
right.
dies, we riot. I'm sure had that not been the way it was, I'm sure Daryl wouldn't have lasted a season or two, but now he survived the series. He's got his own spinoff, so it's like,
Exactly.
it's like, sometimes, I mean, like, it's one thing, for a book, like, I think in some cases the actors save the characters because they
Oh,
have
yeah.
it planned out a certain way, and then a certain actor brings it to life. Like, had Norman
Bring,
Reedus not done a good job, uh, who knows what would have happened? Like,
he
it just,
brought a quality to it that it didn't have on its own.
yeah, exactly. And it's like this would be a big mistake to get rid of them, It's different when you're doing it in a book where like it's kind of up to the audience's interpretation, how they sound and everything. Do you write? This is something. So
What?
I started writing my first novel. I'm currently
Oh,
working away
good.
at it. Yeah.
Good for
So
you.
I have a whole cast list like in my head to kind of help me. It's like real life actors, like big Hollywood actors who I envision in certain roles. Do you kind of do the same thing when you're
I,
writing
s-
characters? Yeah.
I see them. Yeah, I see them. I don't write roles for people, but I had done some work out in Los Angeles for there used to be a nighttime soap called Knots Landing. That was a very big TV show, and now it's streaming again on Amazon or Netflix, something. And that was an episodic fiction story with a cliffhanger ending. And I had to read all the scripts and then create a book from it for them. And that's how I was supporting myself while I was writing my first novel. And that influence, you see it there. You see Dickens, you see Trollope, you see Knots Landing, that serial formula. So when that book came out, the villainess on Knots Landing, an actress named Donna Mills, she optioned it for a TV series, which didn't get made, but she recognized the rhythm in the novel when she read it. She said, "Oh, this could be a great TV show, you know." So she saw herself because she was a huge star on Knots Landing. So I did have her sort of in mind, but the role I had in mind more than the specific character, the actor, you know, that it's safer as a writer to say a Betty White-esque grandmother, right? Don't get your heart set on the specific one, but keep a loose, because you don't want to break your heart. You want you to write more novels, right?
Yep. No, exactly. Like it's the character has to come before the actor. You can't
Oh, yeah.
say, okay, we have a family. Let's say in the book we have let's say, for example, I'm just gonna pull something out of my head. Let's say there's a single mother. Her husband passed away. She's raising 3 kids. Okay, but you had a part in mind that you wanted, let's say a famous actor, like, I don't know, you envisioned Christian Bale,
Right.
in a certain part. Well, there's no male parts in there. How are you gonna work it out? Okay, so
He's the
you,
wicked neighbor, right?
yeah, exactly. So you add in
He's the
an extra.
boyfriend who beats her up,
Yeah,
right? Oh,
exactly. Or they add in a role that doesn't have anything to do with the story. It's
right,
just there because you wanted to include a certain actor. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
as
A
long as
walk on, right?
as long as it serves a narrative purpose, then it's okay. But if you have it set just on one actor and like, okay, I wanted to include this person, but I didn't have anything else to do, so I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
brought him on. He didn't bring anything to the story, but it's Christian Bale. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay,
right,
I can
right.
understand that. I'm, not every character
And
has
and
to,
and that's a different creature. I mean, Frankie, you'll have the option, or hopefully the option to work on the screenplay adaptation, and it changes. It just does, depending on who's the executive producer. What you have to work with. That's going to dictate a lot about how the script goes. But you as the writer, as long as you're interested and that character is telling you what they're doing. I mean, I've had characters that were supposedly a walk on and they end up being the hero because they won me over.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, even thankfully, I mean, like, in doing, writing and directing plays and stuff like that around here,
Yeah.
and we have a really, really good pool of actors to draw from. I definitely try not to yes, there are some actors where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write, this person really deserves a shot. I'm gonna write them apart. But then there's sometimes that you're like, okay, like, I want to include something for, to include everyone else, but I'm like, the story, it doesn't fit,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
there's certain sacrifices that you have to make. Put your personal feelings aside, how you feel about this person, and realize that the story comes first, and that you just gotta, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, and say, okay, there's always the next one. This isn't the only play I'm gonna do.
Right. But and that's one of the confines of the medium you choose to write in, is that if you're doing a novel, you've got finite boundaries that you have to work within, right?
Right.
So you can imagine what it's like for me. Suddenly, I've got this whole playing field. I got these characters coming on. They can go off. They can go off a cliff. They can, suddenly there was a gunshot, right? It is so much fun because I don't have to worry about that. And one of the first things I tell listeners when they tune into the class of 74 is don't try to keep track of everybody's names or the place names. Don't, because you're going to be here for a while, guys, and you'll get to know them just like you would in real life. And the
Yes.
ones that you resonate with, you'll remember their names right off the bat. And the ones you don't, you'll just, say, oh, hi, I remember you. And that's what this is, so elastic. It's just very thrilling for as a writer. I'm hoping that other fiction writers will give it a try if they're stuck or they're not writing, because I realized after the first season, and I wasn't sure I wanted to really do this because it was like hard work. Nobody likes hard work. I mean, I had to write it, right? And so I'm writing 30 pages a week of new finished fiction and then doing the podcast. And then after 25 episodes, I've got 1,300 page manuscript. So, of course, now I'm like, duh, Laura. Okay, now we go through it with a pencil and edit it, and that's a book. We'll do what Dickens did.
Dixon's.
Why? Yeah. Why reinvent the wheel? They already showed us how to do it. So I'm going to do that. Now I'm Charles Dickens. Oh. I've got to tell you a funny story, though, about Anthony Trollope, who is another best-selling Victorian writer in England. And he was serialized in magazines, too, in the beginning, until he got really famous. Then he could just write, books and get them published like Dickens could. But in the beginning, they had to serialize them. And he did this whole series on the Barchester Towers and this whole community. And he did 6 novels in it. And there was a very important guy in the Church of England whose wife, Mrs. Prudy, what a name, Prudy.
Rudy.
She was in everybody's business. She would cause so many problems. Whenever there was a dull time, Trollope would send in Mrs. Prudy to cause some trouble, right? To get things going again. Well, one day he went to his club and somebody said to him, Mrs. Prudy's got to change. She's got to get nicer or something. Everybody kept talking to him about Mrs. Prudy. And he said, I've had it. That's it. He walked to his house, went up, and he killed her. And then when they published the next, she was gone. And everyone was shocked. She had been around so long. And I always think, wow, that's audience feedback. He just did away with her. And I think Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes stories stood by themselves, but the novels he wrote, like A Study in Scarlet, those were serialized. And I think as a writer, it really bothered him people talking to him about what was going to happen in the next part of it. Well, I think he was bothered by everything about Sherlock Holmes. I think he wanted to stay home and write novels about, French Protestants escaping to England and stuff like that, which he did later. And nobody read them, but that's what he liked to do.
That was his bread and butter.
It
But it sounds like
was.
he didn't want to be influenced by the audience in a way.
No, he
Almost
didn't
no,
like it. Didn't like
no.
it. And most writers don't. I mean, I wouldn't, when I was writing a novel, I didn't want anybody to tell me, oh, well, it shouldn't be this, shouldn't be that. And we're hard to edit, novelists, because if there's one little thing wrong in chapter 3, that means you may have to change something in every chapter for the next 300 pages. And, it's just a big, bulky canvas. So the class of 74 is just a real relief. And I'm pleased to say that fans of my novels really like it.
And that's good.
Yeah,
That's it.
they recognize my voice.
You got a loyal fan base, which is always very, very important. They, stick through you through thick and thin. It's something that, like, yes, you always have to. I find, taking risks, I always say, is a big part of the, writing a series or anything like that, because you also don't want it to feel like, if you just, let's say in your universe, resurrection is a thing. You can bring people back to life and things like that. You can take a risk, kill somebody off, get some audience feedback. If they don't like it, oh, it's fine. We'll just resurrect that character, But then there also becomes that line of, okay, but then now it proves that there's no stakes. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if I know that character can just be brought back in the blink of an eye, then what am I following here? You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Exactly. What the writer feels while they're writing is what the reader will feel when they're absorbing it. And the same thing with listeners. And that's why,
exactly.
even though I've got this lousy voice, because I used to have a really good speaking voice that projected, and now I've just really got one vocal cord. I don't care. I'm such a ham. I mean, there I am, right? I get to read what I wrote. And that's where I say it's like people love going to bookstore readings with authors because it's different when you hear the author read it. And it's just great fun, And I just think, Frankie, it's a very lonely world, And whenever you can hook in to some pleasant pastime that's worthwhile, that makes you think a little bit and laugh and just to feel better. What more can you ask for, right?
It's the best feeling in the world. The fact that you're able to bring people in and they get invested into the story. And then when the characters die, it's like they lost a family member. That's a good type of, that first off proves great writing. It proves great, whether it's a TV show or whatever the case may be. If it's a TV show, that it proves that not just the writing was good, but that the actor was good in that they made the characters likable. And that, one of the things Walking Dead always did was that they had a after show called Talking Dead. And normally after the character or a major character dies, they're normally the guest on Talking Dead, so that
the mother, you get over it.
You have them killed brutally. It's a devastating scene, and then
they killed
Talking
the
Dead
mother. Right.
Oh, which one? Spoiler alert, guys. Lori, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I think they had her on too. Yeah. In her episode. And it's a great way to be like, hey guys, just so you know, this person's alive. Don't worry, everything's okay. They're happy. Their career's going good and everything.
Yeah, but we want her back, right? But then you find somebody new and develop a second lead.
No, exactly. But the thing about that show that's so good is that it proves that there are stakes because
Oh
once a
yeah.
character dies, they're dead. You know, you can bring them back for flashbacks and stuff like that, of course. But and to me, that's okay. Bringing them back for flashbacks, dream
Right.
sequences, and things like that are
Right.
okay. But having them like, oh, like you clearly see them die, and it turns out they faked their death, and you go back, you're like, no, didn't work that way. I don't think it works
Yeah.
like that in real life. Granted, there wouldn't be zombies in real life. But you at least want there to be some stakes in
Yeah.
in in
Yeah. Yeah.
shows. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I'm so glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that show because I was fascinated by it. That how people gravitated. And as I say, I'm older, so I remember Dallas, Knots Landing, and Dynasty are nighttime soaps, and people were obsessed with them the way Walking Dead was. But it was on AMC, right?
AMC.
Originally?
Yep.
Yeah. And, and of course, Mad Men was a different phenomenon. Again, a serialized story from week to week. And, but it is, I mean, I kind of looked at it like, oh, this is Knots Landing with zombies, right?
That's a good way to look at it, actually.
Right. I mean, that all stories have different roles in them, and it depends on where you want to go. I think horror is easier to tell an exciting story because you can do a lot of stuff that audience will take in stride. Whereas if we were talking about somebody working in an ad agency, it wouldn't necessarily, translate, right?
Yeah, that's Mad Men, I think, isn't it? The
Yeah,
ad agency. Yeah, I knew
right,
exactly. I was like, that's another AMC show.
right. But you couldn't have like on Ad Men, you couldn't open the door and then a monster jump out and bite you, right?
It's just
In
they're all doing
horror,
commercials.
there's
Yeah.
so much more to choose from as a writer, I think.
No, exactly. And or even one of the good things that writers do is that they take advantage of the fact that it's on paper. They're not, this isn't a show they're writing, that they have to keep in mind budgetary
Yeah.
things and things like that. And they do like dragons and things like that. Like those are good there too. Like that's a good type
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
taking advantage of the fact that the only expense is printing and the costs that go into publishing books.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really where it is, not the millions of dollars that have to be spent on CGI to make the dragons look real and to have these thousands of people going to battle. You know what I mean? You don't got to worry about that if it's a book because it's like the budget is
Well,
free in that
and
regard.
exactly. But you also begin to understand your audience. What will they fill in for you? Like there's so much description that I have to do in a written novel that in the class of 74, I don't, because people have their own visuals about what these characters look like. It's interesting because it's the world of sound, and that's intriguing. So
Yes. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great writing is truly, it's one of those things that, you also learn a lot too, depending on when you're writing certain, if you're writing in during a time that you never lived through, you get to
yeah,
research that, look up,
oh,
how they talk
I
back
lived
then.
I lived through
You
this and I
lived
have
it. So
the
yeah.
research I have to do. Well, a big part of my Patreon group, the class of 74, is this museum of all my notes behind every episode, right? Well, what about Nixon? Who was it? What was going on in Vietnam? And I don't want to put that in the show, but I put it up at Patreon that anybody who's interested, they see how this worked or Aretha Franklin daring to change a lyric in a song and it sold 1 million records the next week. And so suddenly all of black music changes in a week and, just cool stuff. But I can write about that outside the show. But that fabric, I love sweeping through what's going on. I mean,
No, exactly. And you have a
it's
loyal fan base. You built up a loyal fan base through all of this. And it's
well,
truly awesome though. Yeah.
you're building your own empire up there. I am so impressed with what you're up to. And whenever somebody my age, and you call your grandfather or grandmother and say, this lady today I interviewed said, look, bub, this enables your grandson to stay home and still be a major world artist. This is what this technology is for. And by the way, granddad and grandma, you need a new hobby. Let's get you on here. Let's get you listening to a podcast. I've got one for you. It's called The Class of 74. Anyway, but people talk about how awful the new technology is, and I disagree. I disagree.
No, it's beautiful. My grandmother, who is going on 92, would love it.
Yay. Yay.
And she would relate to
her.
it because she lived, she's like, I remember this, I remember that, I remember when Nixon was in, you know what I mean? Like, I still
she'll remember
everything.
Right. Well, she'll love it because the major character's mother's Canadian. It was with the Canadian Red Cross in London. So there's sort of this running joke that Mrs. Schuyler always cooks things in an electric skillet because she learned to cook during the war from all the Red Cross ladies. And they only had one burner in their apartment in Kensington. So everything she knows goes in one pan. And she's still like that at 50. She's still cooking everything in one pan. And Cynthia just says, oh no, more war food tonight. But your grandmother will completely identify. I have heard more about feedback about Woolton pie that I mentioned in an episode. And Lord Woolton was the minister of food during World War II. And there was a recipe that all the things that were not rationed, what could you make out of it? And so they called it Woolton pie. Like, what could you scrape together in London to make dinner for your family? And I got more feedback on that episode because people said, I can't believe you know Woolton pie. And I'm like, well, I didn't really. I sort of accidentally stumbled on it when I was writing about something else. And it's just fun. Fun.
It is. And it's something that you didn't really have to research because you're like, I went through this, You're like, this is my history book right here. This is the book that I'm researching. It's all in my head,
Yeah.
And you've built an empire. You have built an empire, through
slowly.
books. It's slowly. I mean, you're, give yourself credit. You got to give yourself credit. You're doing amazing things. You truly are.
The thing is, Frankie, after I had that accident, I was in the process of republishing my entire fiction backlist, which we were doing 12 books we were republishing. And the deal was I had to write an introduction to each book about the period that I wrote it in, because now 1988 is like ancient history now, right?
Right.
The Reagan era. And I just haven't been able to do it yet. I'll go back. I'll do it. But what happened, all my books started going out of print, and I need to do the work to bring them back. But they're around. Every library has my books. They really do. You just go to V. In Canada, I was very big too in the libraries. My best book was Riverside Drive, my very first novel that I wrote on my own. And I know that's everywhere in Canada because years later, a division of Harlequin, which is a Canadian company, people didn't know that, out of Ontario, out of Toronto, created a hardcover house called Mira Books. And they came to sign me up because of my first novel, Riverside Drive. So I know the Canadians like the way I write.
And you've impressed many. You've, it's truly quite the impressive resume. It really is. And,
thank you.
And that you're still continuing to do. The Class of 74 is one of many for sure. Your books can also be found on Amazon too. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all that.
Yeah, a lot of them, as I say, the new editions are out of print, but there are tons of used copies everywhere. And I don't mind if you go and get one at a used bookstore or get it off of Amazon. Or Abe Books is another site that's wonderful for getting old fiction, and But go, yeah, just, and you know how libraries will have like the Friends of the Library will sell books, people donate books, and then they'll have a little store. You'll always find me in there too. You know, I don't care. Just listen to the Class of 74. That's what I'm doing now, and that makes me happy. And those novels are fun, though. If you like the Class of 74, you'll like my novels. It's true.
Perfect. You heard it from her, guys. If you like her novels, you will like the podcast. So be sure to go check out both of them. Check out both of them while we're at it. Laura, this has truly been fantastic. You know, getting the chance to talk to you, and you know, as we said, that we have this platform that we're able to connect and everything, and do stuff like this. It's truly fantastic. Thank you so much for taking
welcome.
the time to come on. It was truly an honor. Where could people find you on like social media? Do you do Instagram or Facebook or any of that?
Well, you know, I'm on Facebook, yeah. But we have I've got three. Look for Laura Van Warmer, and like a Peter in a panel truck, a Van Warmer. Okay, you'll remember that now. LauraVanWarmer.net is my writer's website. The Class of 74 podcast.com has its own website. And at Facebook, either one, you'll find me. But the Facebook is fun. And then Patreon, the Class of 74, I'm there. A lot of it's public. Some of it's behind the paywall because we do these closed meetings where people share about their high school years, you know, the good stuff, the bad stuff. So I don't record any of that stuff. But so at Patreon, Class of 74, and yeah, I guess Facebook, I think, is the easiest one because most of my audience, the older people, are still on Facebook, where other people are on, you know.
All the others.
Yeah, well, I actually, as Laura Van Warmer, I am on all the others. You'll find me everywhere. But for the Class of 74, just Google Class of 74, and there's lots of places to go and find me, and you can always write me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So be sure to go check all of that out, guys. And Laura, thank you so much again for taking the time to come on out of your busy schedule. You're always very, very busy with stuff. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And let's definitely stay in touch for sure.
You got it. We will.
We will. Perfect. Guys, thank you all for listening to the Corkin Entertainment Show today. We'll see you guys in the next episode. But until then, this is Frankie and Laura signing off. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.